So if somebody comes into my house and steals, I'm a wealthy dude and I've got some Picassos and Monets on the wall and some cash in a safe and some jewelry in the jewelry thing, and they walk away with 20, 30, 50, $100,000 worth of stuff from my house.
Mm-hmm.
And I call the cops. They get arrested. They're guilty. They're on the cameras. They get busted. It's 100% guilty.
Yeah.
They would get some time in the pen or jail at some capacity. I would imagine, right?
Maybe they might get probation and not that.
Okay, because you never know these days.
Right.
And then what about if they took all the jewelry and went and pawned it and spent all the money before they got caught? What about me getting paid back for them breaking into my house and stealing my stuff? Do I have any hope of that?
All right. So I keep answering these questions with long answers, but I'm going to do it again.
Okay.
Because I have a case I can compare to that. All right. So we're getting ready for trial in 2018. We got this class action lawsuit. We're literally the weekend before trial. A buddy of mine calls me. Tom Scott owns a company, right? It's like a real estate management company. He's older. He's made a lot of money. It kind of runs itself. He doesn't go to work every day, right? So he's got an office manager. He pays her good money, 120 grand to ish a year, and she's supposed to handle all the AP, all the AR, keep the thing moving, right? But Tom's getting ready to retire, and he wants to buy a house in Tiburon. Do you know where that is?
Nope.
It's right. It's a little island next to Sausalito, across the bay in San Francisco.
Sounds swanky.
Right, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Swanky, expensive.
Yep.
All right. And so he's planning. He's in his last year's working. His wife got some health problems, and he says, Minces, I'm looking at my bank account, and it's just something's not right. We should have more money in it. We're constantly barely making ends meet, and I can't figure it out. So I go to our accountant. This is what he's telling me. So I go to our accountant, and she looks at it, and she notices there's we're making 2 Bank of America payments a month. I can't figure out why. And we think what's happening is that the office manager is paying both sorry, I said Bank of America. I meant American Express.
Yeah.
2 Amex payments a month. We think she's paying our Amex and her own every month through the company. I say, well, damn. Okay, what do you think the total amount is? He says, I don't know, man. We're still figuring that out, but it's hundreds of thousands of dollars. He said, I'm about to call the police and file a report. I just want to make sure that's the right move. I said, no. Now, this comes back to your question. Why?
Okay.
Well, because once someone's faced with a threat to their freedom and they're looking at prison time, any money they have is going where? It's going to their criminal defense lawyers.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you just may have done society a service by having that person arrested in jail, but you ain't never getting your money. Right? So I told Tom.
Because if you go to jail, you don't have to, as part of the penalty, it's not like you got to pay so much back.
Yeah, that's called restitution.
Okay.
Eventually, if you're guilty and you go to prison and you have a 50 cents per day job, you'll owe restitution to Frost Murphy, but you're never seeing your money.
Yeah.
Because they just spent it all on their lawyers.
Okay.
Because most people can't afford a lawsuit that goes to trial, nor can they afford to be charged with a felony like that. They're either going to go to prison or they're going to spend all their money on their lawyer.
But
right?
there's none left for
None
restitution.
left. So I told Tom, I said, here's what we do, man. I said, you get her in your office and you tell her you want to have a meeting with her. And you tell her to bring her laptop. He says, okay. I said, get your accountant there and you tell her to have her phone hot. We're going to record this.
Okay.
So I show up. It's a Saturday before trial. It was a Friday. And I sit her down and I say, I can't promise anything, Tom, but this is better than the other approach. You can always have her arrested. So we get her in there. She sits across from me and I say, hi, my name's David Minces. I represent Tom and his companies I have for years. We're here to talk to you about some important work-related issues. Your answers to the questions I'm going to ask you will go a long way in determining how this ends. Now, we as civil lawyers, we can never threaten criminal action solely to gain an advantage in a civil proceeding, right?
Okay.
So that's implicated here. We have certain ethics guardrails.
So you can't say if you don't do X, we're going to send you to the pen.
No, but I can say your answers to my questions will go a long way in determining where this goes, right?
Okay.
Because for all, maybe she gets to keep her job. I don't know.
Yeah.
Right? So anyway, I start with we've got some concerns about the account. And, have you ever charged anything personal on a company credit card? And she's like, yeah. Okay. What? Like, can you tell us what? And she gives an example or two, and we follow up, and she gives a few more examples, and we just keep walking down the trail.
Okay.
Right. And eventually, have you sometimes paid your personal credit card bill with the company money? And she's admitting to all of it at every step of the way.
Okay.
Okay.
And you're recording all this.
All of it.
Okay.
And then I say, would you mind emailing us your credit card statements?
While she in the meeting, because she's got her laptop
and she
right
does
there.
it, and she does it.
Okay.
And by the time it was over, I at the very end, I remember saying to her, I said, what do you think the total cost of all this was? Like, how much do you think you spent of the company's money on your personal stuff? And she said, I don't know, $50,000? I said, how about 700?
Wow. She'd spent $700,000 of the
And
company's
then it was
money.
the whole, I'll pay it back. We end the meeting. Now, they were lucky, right? Because she had parents that had money. They owned a dairy farm, I think.
Okay.
And so what happened was, by the time she goes to the criminal lawyer, then the case is over. We got her.
Because you got all the evidence. You got her.
She's
name too.
going to prison,
Yeah.
right? Because that amount of theft is clearly a felony. So I get a call from a really good lawyer, lives right near me. Boom, check gets cut in 3 days. Done, paid.
Paid?
Right. She goes to jail. My client never sees that money. He has a house in Tiburon now because he did not call the police, is my point. So
Dang.
don't call the cops. Call your insurance company. Tell them about the Monets. Hopefully you took pictures, and your insurance carrier knows that you own them. And file that claim, and don't call the cops. See if your insurance is going to cover it, and go from there. And if they don't, call me. We'll either sue the insurance company or try to chase the bad guy.